Greetings and welcome to Yarnspirations. I'm Mary Beth Temple from Hooked for Life Publishing, and I'm here on behalf of my good friends at Red Heart to introduce you to Nugget the Kitten, one of our Red Heart Amigurumi crochet kits. Now, everything you need to make this adorable little kitten is included in your kit. The only thing you're going to need is a pair of scissors and your own 2 hands. So we're going to have our pattern, we're going to have our skein of yarn, some stuffing, a locking stitch marker, our handy dandy crochet hook, the contrast color of yarn we're going to need to embroider Nugget's face, and of course a yarn needle to sew our parts together and weave in our tails. So join me as we go over all the tips and tricks you're going to need to make Nugget the Kitten. We're going to start by making her body, and we're going to also start by using the magic ring. Now, if you've never used this before, we use this in Amigurumi quite a bit. It's a great technique to learn. So you're going to leave the cut end over your hand. We call that the tail. The yarn that is attached to the ball or the skein is the working yarn. And I'm going to give myself a little space between my index finger and my middle finger. I'm going to go over my index finger, under my middle finger, and over my index finger again, and I've made a big X. I'm going to take my crochet hook and put it under this leg of the X and grab this other one and pull it through, which puts a loop on my hook. And now all I have to do is get my fingers out of the way. Make sure that you're crocheting moving on with the working yarn and not the tail. That's a really easy mistake to make. So the first thing we're going to do is chain 1, and then we are going to put 6 single crochet in the ring. And that's just like putting a single crochet in any other place. It's just you're using the ring instead of a stitch. So I'm going to insert my hook, yarn over and draw up a loop. Now I have 2 loops on my hook, and I'm going to yarn over and draw through both loops. So that is my first single crochet is complete. Let's look at that one more time. Insert your hook in the ring, yarn over and draw up a loop. You have 2 loops on your hook, 1, 2, and you're going to yarn over, draw it through both. So that's 2 single crochets in the ring. I have to make 4 more. So here are my 6 single crochets. I'm going to grab that tail and give it a tug. I'm going to hold on to my stitches relatively loosely. I want to make sure that that yarn has enough play to sort of come through the bottom of the stitches. And I'm going to pull and pull and pull and pull and pull. And now I have a circle, I have a round, so I'll be able to work in the round. The other thing those instructions tell us is to use our locking stitch marker and mark the last stitch of the round. And every round we do, we're going to move that stitch marker up and mark the last stitch. It's really important that we know where each round begins and ends. So for round 2, it says increase in each stitch around. So to increase, all we're going to do is put 2 single crochets in the same stitch. So there's my first stitch of the round. I'm going to yarn over and draw up a loop, yarn over and draw through 2, and then I'm going to put my next stitch in the same stitch. So I took 1 stitch and turned it into 2. Now I'm going to go to the next stitch, 1, 2. So I'm going to do that all the way around, and where I started with 6 stitches in the round, I'm going to end with 12. Now for round 3, we're going to add some stitches between the increases. So for round 3, it says single crochet in next stitch, and then increase in the next stitch, and we're going to do that all the way around. Moving on, for round 4, you're going to single crochet in each of the 2 plain stitches and then do an increase and do that all the way around. And then round 5, you're going to single crochet in each of the 3 stitches and then put an increase. So you're still making your same number of increases in every round at this point, but you're having different numbers of stitches between them. So all you have to do is follow along the pattern. So I'm going to come back for round 6 where we're going to work in the back loop only. Now for round 6, it says working in BLO, and that stands for back loop only. single crochet in each stitch around. So usually when we single crochet, we go under both legs of the stitch. But for back loop only, we're only going under the back loop. So to achieve that, I'm going to take my hook, sort of put it into the center of the stitch and go under just that back loop. And then I'll make my single crochet the way I normally would. So the stitch is the same, it's where you put it that's different. So I'm inserting my hook down in the center and going just under that back loop. And I'm going to work all the way around that way. And then for the next round, which is round 7, I'm going to single crochet in each stitch around, but I'm going to work through both loops of the stitch the way I normally would. And then round 8 has some decreasing, so I'm going to come back and show you how to decrease. You can see the little ridge here that is formed when we do the back loop only, because the front loop makes the ridge. And the reason we do it, see how flat that is? That's to help our little kitty sit when it's time. It makes the bottom a little flatter and helps the stitching go in the right direction. You might also notice I took this opportunity to weave in my tail, because as you keep going with the piece and it gets more narrow at the top, it would be really hard to reach in and do that. So that's already done. Looking at round 8, it says single crochet in each of the next 3 stitches and single crochet decrease. So we're going to make 1 single crochet, 2 single crochets, 3 single crochet, and now we're going to do a decrease. And to do the decrease, we insert our hook in the next stitch and yarn over and draw up a loop, just like I would if I was making a single crochet, and there's my 2 loops on my hook. But now I'm also going to go in the next stitch, yarn over and draw up a loop, and now I have 3 loops on my hook. 1, 2, 3. So I'm going to yarn over and draw through all 3. So that takes 2 stitches and turns it into 1. Let's look at that one more time. 1, 2, 3, and then here's our decrease. Insert your hook in the next stitch, yarn over and draw up a loop, and in the next stitch, yarn over and draw up a loop. You have 3, 1, 2, 3, yarn over and draw through all 3. So I'm going to finish this round, which will take me down to 24 stitches. And then for rounds 9 and 10, I'm just going to single crochet in each stitch around, which will keep me at 24 stitches. For 11, I'm going to have to do those decreases again, but there'll only be 2 stitches between them. 12 and 13 are what we call the work even rounds, no increasing, no decreasing, just single crochet in each stitch around. Round 14, we will have 1 single crochet between those decreases. And for round 15, we're just going to have a single crochet round, 1 single crochet in each stitch around, and then we're going to look at the stuffing. All right, we're going to fasten off, leaving a long tail for sewing. And I think that'll do it. All I'm going to do is clip that yarn and pull it up, and then it's all fastened off. So now we're going to start to stuff. So when I open up my little package of stuffing here, it's going to really expand. It's been squished in there, but now it's going to all come out. And then once the air hits it, it's going to expand even more. So I'm just going to grab a little handful. I don't need too much for this point. And I like to sort of uncompress it, decompress it, I guess is the word I'm looking for. And I'm going to stuff the body. Now, unlike some of our other amigurumi kits, this is not a teeny tiny body part, so you can get in there pretty easily, but if you need something to help it along, you can always use the rubber end of your crochet hook to help push that stuffing in. So here is our little kitty body kind of flat on the bottom, which we wanted with our back loop only round. I'm going to set that aside because we need it later. Now the head, the arms and legs, which you're going to make 4 of, the ears, which you're going to make 2 of, and the tail, which you're going to make 1 of, all basically begin the same way as the piece that you've already done. So once again, we're going to make our magic ring, put my hook under this leg, grab that loop and pull it up, and for each pattern section that you're going to work on, you're just going to follow along with the instructions on the stitch count. So there's your chain 1. I'm starting with the head, so it's telling me to begin with 8 single crochet in the ring. When I have my single crochets in the ring, I'm going to tug on that tail and let it form into a circle, into a round, and I'm going to need to remember to take my locking stitch marker and put it on the last stitch of the round so I always know where I am in my round. So for the head, which is what I'm working on now, our magic ring was up here. We're going to have some increase rounds, then we're going to have some working even rounds, and remember those are rounds that don't have increases or decrease, you're just stitching the number of stitches that you have in the round. And then I'm going to have some decrease rounds down here, and when I finish off down here, I'm going to have the same number of stitches on this side as I do on this side. Here we are at the end of round 17, and it's telling us to start stuffing the head and continue as we go. So once again, I'm just going to grab a hunk of this, fluff it up a little bit, and start stuffing. Then we have 2 more rounds to go, in which we single crochet in the next stitch and then decrease all the way around, and then single crochet in each of the next 2 stitches and then decrease all the way around. That's going to take us down to 12 stitches, which is the same number of stitches we had for the neck opening of the body, which is going to make life super easy when we have to sew it all together. To get our assembly going, the first thing we're going to do is sew the head to the body. I'm using one of the tails. I'm using the one from the head, and I'm lining up the beginning of the rounds on each piece, so I have them both on the same side. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to grab 1 stitch from below and 1 stitch from above. Whoops, there we go. Give that a little tug. Off to the next one. Grab 1 of the below stitches, 1 of the above stitches, and I'm going to go all the way around, and I have the same number of stitches in the head as on the top of the body. I'm going to put that over there in case I need it. So you should come out even. 1 on the bottom, and you can keep squishing more stuffing in there if you need to until it's completely closed. 1 on the bottom, 1 on the top. I'm going to do this all the way around. So we see we have that all sewn together with a whip stitch. To weave this in, I'm going to do 2 things. I'm going to go to the back of the work, the side I can't see, and I'm going to try and get that needle in through the back of a couple of stitches just to anchor it. And then you don't have to do this, but what I like to do is to then put the needle in and let it come up. Just go right through the stuffing and let it come up a couple inches away. And I'm going to give that a tug and trim it close, and it's going to recede back into the stuffing. What that does is it makes that last tail, it's inside with all the stuffing, so for it to come undone, it would have to work really, really hard. So I'm going to go ahead and weave in this other end, and then I'm going to put on an ear. Now I'm just going to do the ear here on camera. You'll sew the arms and legs and the tail on the same way. It says to place the ear between rounds 3 and 8. So there's round 1, 2, 3. And there it is. I'm going to kind of squish that in there between 3 and 8. Now, each amigurumi in the whole wide world has an individual personality and the way it looks. So if you want to put your ear in a different place, you go right ahead. That's not going to hurt anything or anybody. There are no amigurumi police. When I whip stitch this on, I do want to make sure I'm going through all the stitches. And then coming back, I'm going to grab a little bit of the head just to make sure that I'm on there sturdily. And then when I get that all finished, when I get all my little appendages sewn on, I'm going to weave in those ends the way I did when I sewed the body and the head together at the neck, by going under some stitches and then making sure that I stick my needle in and let it travel a couple more inches and trim it close just to make sure that there are no ends that are going to pull out. To embroider the nose and the eyes, we're going to take our strand of black thread and split it in half so that we make sure that we have enough yardage to get where we need to go. Now for the eyes, it says use one of the halves of the color A, that's the black, and embroider eyes along 5 stitches, leaving 3 stitches between them on round 11. So to anchor this black thread, I'm going to once again go through some stitches and keep the work behind. Keep that black behind because I don't want to see it, but I want to make sure it's anchored. So similar, here we got some, these are not all the same length. I'm going to trim those so they're even. But it's similar to the way that we anchored the yarn when we were weaving our tails in, except we're doing it at the beginning, not the end. So it says to go over 5 stitches, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'm going to end here. And if you notice, they have a little curve. So I'm just going to go here and here. And back down. And it says leave 3 stitches in between. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3. Bring my needle up over here. And again, it's okay for the yarn the needle and the yarn to travel through that stuffing. It's not like it's a sweater and the wrong side is going to have some durability issues. Nobody's going to be able to see the threads on the back or touch them and wear them out. So let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we'll go 1, 2, 3. We'll go down here. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep, that looks right to me. We're going to go here and here. Once again, I'm going to anchor that thread. It doesn't matter where, just through the back of a couple of stitches so it doesn't pull out. And then running it through the body part I'm closest to, in this case the head. And if you give it a pull, when you trim it, it'll snap back right inside. So there's our little eyes. Now I'm going to use that other strand. Remember I pulled it in half. So I used half for the eyes and I'm going to use the other half for the nose. All right, for the nose, it says to work on round 13 and 14, between 13 and 14, and make sure it's centered between the eyes. So there's my 3 eye stitches, so that's what I'm going to work my nose over. So I'm going to start this way just to make sure I have the top lined up. Oops, I got it around my body here. Let me untangle that. There we go. And I'm going to go and make my triangle. And just a tiny little extension down 1. And now I'm going to use the whatever black yarn I have left, I'm going to use it to fill in the nose. And remember, as long as you're happy with how your little kitty looks, then you did it correctly. There's no embroidery police coming to tell you you did it wrong. And here is my little face that we just put in. And here is my little friend that I did earlier that has both ears, both little arms, both little legs, and a happy little tail. So thank you so much for joining me here at Yarnspirations to make our little kitty friend Nugget. And once again, I'm Mary Beth Temple from Hooked for Life Publishing. Thanks so much for joining me, and I hope you had a wonderful time making yourself a new friend.